Well, this here is my Trek Remedy 8 2018, £2,700 in the UK. Stay tuned, I'm going to go through the componentry that makes this such a great bike and worth considering if you're after that upgrade. This is awesome. Equipped up front with the Rockshox Lyric RC fork, it's an absolutely amazing fork. It's the RC Solo, 160mm of travel. It soaks up absolutely everything that I've thrown at it so far. That includes bike parks and sort of standard trails for the particular riding that I do. Comes with the rebound adjustment dial at the bottom there. A good recommendation is that you go to the website, Rockshox website. You can put in the model of the fork, your weight, and it will give you some recommended settings to be able to dial in that suspension fork and fine tune it. So that's a good benchmark to go from if you're a little unsure how to set up the suspension, and then of course you can refine it from that point and get it to exactly where you want it to hit those trails nice and smooth and get the most from your bike. On the top right hand side of the fork you have the low speed compressor dial, and it just allows you to refine the suspension fork even more. So if you turn it to the right, that's positive, to the left is negative, and it just gives you a bit more opportunity to get that bike set up as you want and get that suspension exactly where you want it. So at the top left of the fork you've got the air cap. Once you remove that, using the settings that are on the Rockshox website as the guideline, you can put your shock pump on there, put in the pressure required, and then of course increase or decrease depending on where you want that pressure to be. But the Rockshox website is definitely a good starting point, and it gets you on your way to getting that suspension absolutely dialed in for the particular trail riding you might do. So pay particular attention to that because it will assist you in getting this set up properly, especially if you're not used to doing it on the more premium forks. The rear suspension is a Rockshox RT3 Deluxe, 150mm of travel. In the unlocked position there, which it's set to at the moment, that's the suspension doing exactly what you've set it up to do. When you shift it one over to the pedal or climb mode, that just makes it a lot more pedal efficient when you're going up hills or going from A to B, and it might be a long haul, so it's just going to make your pedal efficiency so much better. In the up position is fully locked, so the suspension's not going to do anything. It locks out that rebound and it will make it much more efficient. So if you're commuting to and from work, that's going to be the one that you might want to use because you're not going to have any wasted energy. I tend just to remain in the unlocked position because I have put it in locked quite a few times, or the pedal mode on climbing or going across long terrain, and then of course getting to the fun sections, forgetting to put it back into unlocked, and then as a result of that having quite a bumpy ride. You have your rebound adjustment dial up here, so just utilise the recommendations based on the Rockshox website and then refine from there, but also your air cap. So just like the front fork, put your shock pump on there, put in the pressure required, and then of course increase or decrease from that point to get it exactly where you want it. Loaded with Bontrager components, as you would expect from a Trek bike. The bars come in at 780mm wide, 27.5mm rise here, and a 35mm diameter bar. Keeping that together is this 50mm stem, and on the ends here you've got the Rhythm dual lock-on grips. I've got to say they're actually good performers for me personally. Come off a couple of times, and even on the more premium grips that I've bought in the past, I've either lost an end cap or caused so much damage to the actual grip it needs replacing. And even though I've come off this more times than I would like to say, they're holding up really well. So apart from a couple of scuffs on the paint and a little chip here and there, the actual grips themselves are still very much intact and perform exactly as you'd want them to. So keeping that stock is probably a good move, but it's a personal preference thing, so that's entirely up to you. But this as stock is very good. The SRAM Guide R brakes, these are level entry brakes, but I've got to say they have unbelievable stopping power. They're 4-piston calipers loaded with the right pads. These will deliver nothing but exceptional performance. The lever, best description really, as soon as you press it, it's a progressive lever, so the harder you press, the more stopping power you get. And the reason I say that is because some of the brakes out there, as soon as you press that lever, you have like the ultimate stopping power, and that might not be for everybody. So with this SRAM Guide R, you really get to decide how much pressure is being applied to how much stopping power you want. These as stock, for the particular riding I do, I will not be looking at upgrading these. They are absolutely perfect. Of course, no Trek bike can go reviewed without showing the Trek logo. Love it. However, importantly above it, we have a knock block system, and that is a preventative measure to enable you to sort of safeguard the bike so you don't cause damage to the bike unnecessarily. But also, it's going to safeguard yourself should you come off in any particular environment. I'll show you the back right now and just explain it a bit more in further detail. The knock block system is actually quite clever really. I've taken it apart to have a look to be able to see how it works, so I can explain it to you now. So underneath the head cartridge, and what holds it all in place is this Allen key bolt. There is a little block underneath this that prevents the bar from being rotated all the way around. So that's going to safeguard the bike and yourself so that you can't overextend those bars, cause possible damage to yourself, and overstretch the cables, brake elements of the bike, etc. So it's a good safety feature, but I understand it's probably not going to be for everybody. It is removable because you can take it out by removing this Allen key bolt, but what you can put it in its place to fill that gap, I'm not entirely sure. So I'm not going to offer any guidance on that, but it seems to be a pretty good system for what I want it for, but it might not be for everybody. Fitted with the Bontrager inline dropper post, gotta say it works really well, if I'm honest. I've had it 6 months, no problems at all cable operated, so if you do have to replace anything on there, it's actually going to be quite cheap. When you operate the dropper, it really is quite smooth. So as I press the lever now and release, it's got infinite adjustment, which means as soon as you release that lever, it will stop anywhere within its travel. So you can keep doing that until you get the position you want, or if you want to get it raised up fully, just press the lever and you can see it's actually quite a fast but smooth transition from the bottom to top there. As soon as you put your weight back on it and release the lever, it stays in a down position. My only slight criticism of this dropper is the little bit of movement that you have in the seat there. I had a Rockshox Reverb before this, and I've got to be honest, there was movement in that as well. So even when you spend £200–300 on one, it doesn't completely limit that movement. The performance of this bike though far outweighs that little bit of movement I've got in the seat, so I think I can accept the fact that it does that. Not really bothered at all, to be honest. It works fine. The saddle is the Bontrager Evoke 2. Gotta say it's really comfortable. For the riding that I do and the trails I go on, like any seat, once you get used to it, it just becomes second nature. So if you want to swap it out, it's a personal preference thing, like the grips, but actually as stock it's pretty comfy. Fitted up front is the SRAM Descendant 32 tooth chainring. Gotta say it performs really well. It's a direct mount system that you can see there, and coming from a bike that had 2 chain rings before, it does reduce the weight slightly, although that's not something I'm particularly critical of. But the maintenance side and the reliability is far increased when you get more premium products, and this here is just flawless operation, and you'll see that on the internet and as I show you the Eagle itself. Fitted with the beast that you see at the rear, which is a SRAM GX Eagle. It's a 1x12 drivetrain, 10 tooth cog on the high and a 50 on the low. 500% range up from that standard cassette, and it will just absolute make mincemeat of all those hills that you may have struggled to get up before, or it might have taken you a little bit longer. It's not going to eliminate the effort that you have to put in still, but honestly, unless you have tried this, it is a flawless system, shifts so smoothly, easy to maintain. I can't fault this. It's a 5 out of 5 drivetrain, and don't just take my word for that, have a look on the internet, because you'll see all the reviews pointing towards the 5 stars as a very worthwhile purchase. And to come stock on this bike is just one of the key features that drew me towards going to the counter and placing the order. Now, something that I wasn't massively impressed with, and it's definitely worthwhile telling you, you can see here it comes pre-installed with the chainstay, and that's glued to the frame, which is fine, but after the first couple of trips I did, that started to peel away at the front end, and because it went unnoticed, the chain was slapping against it, and of course it caused a couple of chips to the paintwork, which I wasn't impressed about whatsoever. So even when I tried to glue it back down, it still came apart. So it's not very well designed that in order to stay in place, but a way around it is I had an inner tube in the garage, so I cut it to size. Still got this section here which stays down quite well, which is part of the original setup, and the chain doesn't really affect that area, but up this top end it definitely does. So once you wrap it around nice and tight, secure it in place with a couple of cable ties, it's now offered me 100% protection and avoids sort of chipping away at the paint still and causing damage to the chain and all the components. So it's a worthwhile fix if you haven't got a proper chainstay and you just want to use something that you've probably got lying around in the garage already. The Minow link system is quite clever really, it just gives you a bit more adjustability in the bike and the way that you want to get it set up. You've got one of these on either side of the bike, and once you loosen the main bolt on the inside of the bracket, it then allows you to remove this Minow link, and you have 2 positions of adjustability. So where you see it now is the bike at maximum extent, so in that position I have it, it's just raised that bottom bracket ever so slightly, and it does alter the geometry of the bike. So for me personally, this is the position I like to ride in, but as stock it will come fully closed, so it will be butted up against this metal piece here. And I was riding around for probably about 5 months like that, and there was just a couple of situations I wasn't entirely happy with controlling the bike wise. So what I decided to do, move it to that position that you see now, and I haven't looked back from that. It just gives me a bit more purchase on the bike, a lot more confidence, and that works for me. So if you've got the Minow link system fitted, it's definitely worthwhile giving it a go, because you may find that you have an improvement in the performance of not only the bike but the way that you ride as well. So a clever little system that just gives you a bit more ability to play around with the bike setup. This is a 21.5 inch frame, which is XL. I'm 6'2" and it fits me absolutely fine, so if you're around that region, this could be the size that you need. Speak to your local dealership though to get the advice on that, and they'll definitely point you in the right direction. What I would say, because it's a matte black finish, it is prone to scratches, and that's probably the same with most frames. So a good recommendation is that you go out onto a website called InvisiFrame, and I'll link that in the description, and you purchase the kit that is required for your bike, because it will offer that protection, and this isn't a sales gimmick, it really will scratch quite badly. So if you want to protect it for the amount of money that you spend, it is a small investment but a worthwhile one. Now when it comes to the wheels on this bike, it was supposed to come shipped with the Bontrager XR4s. They're out of stock at the time I ordered the bike in January 2018, so they came shipped with knobby nicks. I didn't get on with them at all. I just found them to be quite unreliable in a lot of the conditions that I ride in. That's a personal preference thing. So I went for the Specialized Hillbilly 2.3 on the front, which I've got to say I absolutely love. And I matched that up with the Bontrager XR4 Expert on the rear, and I got two really cracking deals on those at the time, so make sure you have a good look on the internet to avoid spending more money than you need to. The wheel set on this is the Line Comp 30, it's Bontrager's range. I've had no problems with this either. Inside they come tubeless ready, so the strips are already installed. Very premium plastic in there as well, so when you do remove that tyre, you're not going to cause any damage if you take the tyre off properly. What I would say though is, if you're going to go tubeless, which let's be honest the majority of us do, that you buy the extra long valves, because the ones that I have fitted at the moment are standard valves, but they just about clear enough of the rim to be able to get the pump on. So I haven't really helped myself out there, but I'd already put the tubeless sealant and everything else in, so couldn't really go back from that. But looking forward, when I do it in the future, I'll get the extra long ones, and it will just make that job a lot easier should I need to pump up the tyres and get the pressure back to where I need it. Now if you like this video, please rate, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments, especially if you're thinking about getting this bike or you have it. What's your thoughts on it? But there's going to be plenty more good videos coming up, so subscribe to come back for more. Look up there if you want to see how this bike rides. That's my latest 2 trips up there, and there's going to be more and more content added on each week, so keep a lookout. Until the next one.